We all know that people love CJ Stroud. Everyone loves CJ Stroud. We love CJ Stroud. You love CJ Stroud. Maybe not Twitch, but everyone loves CJ Stroud, including Patrick Mahomes. He loves CJ Stroud. Here he is.
There's a couple. I like watching Josh a lot. We play a lot of similar opponents. He plays a similar style of football that I do. So I always watch what the Bills do and try to take from things that he does. I like watching CJ Stroud a lot now, man. He's been out there and he's making plays happen. And then I would say probably Joe. Just guys, I watch we play the same teams, and so watching him play definitely gives me some ideas of what we can do as an offense. And
so
loves watching CJ Stroud. Loves them.
Likes watching Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and CJ Stroud when he has the time to watch quarterbacks. He answered this after the most obnoxious question ever by noted Chiefs fan Nick Wright, who I consider my friend, because Nick said, well, you guys are always playing in prime time, so you have plenty of opportunities to watch other quarterbacks.
That's a good way to that's funny.
But I was also like, damn it.
I find the list
used to be me as a Patriots fan.
So those are the 4 best quarterbacks in the NFL, according to Patrick Mahomes, himself, Josh Allen, CJ Stroud, and Joe Burrow. Because those are the quarterbacks he likes to watch the most.
And two of them he said, yeah, because we play a lot of the same opponents. One of them, he just loves how he spins it.
Yeah.
Right, and that's CJ Stroud.
Loves how he spins it. I also love how he spins it. He spins it very well.
You're making it sound sexual when you say it like that.
No, I'm not. You are.
Spins it.
Spins it?
You said it, not me.
I hope he spins it this year.
I also do. Will CJ Stroud be the second best quarterback in the NFL by the end of the season?
By the end of the year.
Or how high will he get by the end of the season?
I mean, he has to win the Super Bowl, I think, if we're talking about him as number 2 to Patrick Mahomes.
Who's your number 2 right now?
Burrow still.
Yeah, okay.
And
yeah,
Burrow's made it to the Super Bowl, and I know that Burrow hasn't won the Super Bowl yet, so perhaps you might be pushing back on that. And, of course, CJ Stroud did beat Burrow in the one time that those two faced one another. But we've seen the Bengals and Joe Burrow beat Patrick Mahomes in a big-time spot before. And ultimately, I feel like the Bengals should have won that Super Bowl. Sean McVay just pulled his head out of his butt eventually by the end of that game, and they finally started throwing the football to Cooper Kupp. But I'm trying to think of who else would actually have a strong argument to be ahead of CJ Stroud by year's end next year.
I mean, like if Lamar gets a third MVP.
But the playoffs for Lamar,
he would need playoff success.
He would need to beat CJ Stroud in the playoffs again.
Again, yeah.
And he's 2-0 against CJ Stroud for what it's worth to this point.
I love all the head-to-heads with CJ Stroud. I can't wait to track these for the next 10 years. And every time someone brings up Josh Allen, be like, oh, he's 3-6 against CJ Stroud.
If Lamar has playoff success, or if they happen to match up in the first round of the playoffs or at all in the playoffs, and Lamar were to win that game, he would be in front of CJ still. If CJ goes further in the playoffs because of what's happened to Lamar winning, 2 games ever in the playoffs at this point, or 1 game in the playoffs, I can't even remember. CJ can pass him. I think he can pass Burrow even without playoff success if Burrow does not finish the season again. Because at some point, Joe Burrow's injuries are a problem. And he's not on the field enough to where I would want to not put CJ Stroud in front of him if he doesn't play at least 15 games this year. So I think it's very possible. But unless CJ wins the Super Bowl, 3 is as high as he can go.
Okay.
If Burrow's healthy.
Well,
to me, because I think it's Mahomes and Burrow are, to me, really above everyone else. And then there's a huge group after that.
Oh, I go Mahomes, huge gap. Burrow, Allen, right next to each other.
Okay.
And then a gap. And then that's where you get, like, your Lamar's. CJ could play his way, like, firmly into that.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a pretty good case that you could throw him in there right now. I mean, Mahomes agrees with you if you want to throw him in the top 4.
Yeah, I know Chris Sims. He always does his he does more than 32. He does his best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, he does like
I think it's like 40 because he does some backups as well.
And it's always funny when he ranks like backups ahead of starters.
That always makes me giggle. I'm trying to think who it would be this year.
Daniel Jones.
I bet you there'll be backups in front of Bo Nix, backups in front of Daniel Jones.
Yeah. Minshew will be ahead of Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I could see that. I think
Brock Purdy.
I don't know.
He'll be ahead of all the backups. Yeah.
I struggle with Brock because I can't. It's not fair to him. I can't get Mr. Irrelevant out of my mind. He is the last pick in the NFL draft. No one wanted him. He was fine at Iowa State. He wasn't great. And he plays for the best coach in the NFL. And he has the best weapons in the NFL, or at least some of the best weapons in the NFL. So I struggle to put Brock in that category. But he probably should be.
With the way that he has played and with the success that he has had, you can't just ignore him. Other options that I suppose could be competing with CJ Stroud as the guys who are trying to enter the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've talked about Jordan Love recently on the show as well. Love statistics this past season, even if I don't think he's on the same level as CJ Stroud. 4,159 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. And look, you do have to give Dak Prescott respect for last year. He did throw 36-9. He was a legitimate MVP candidate last season.
There does reach a point with some of the stuff where having like a longer track record of being a top 10, and then if you get higher, top 5 guy.
It elevates you.
Yeah, it elevates you a little bit versus, Brock Purdy, who's had 2 good years now.
Yeah.
And CJ, who had 1 good year.
Yeah, and because like with Dak, I counted just like the year before. Because he's had 2 really great years in 21 and 23.
Yeah.
But 22 was very mediocre. 23 touchdowns, 15 picks. But in 2021, he threw 37 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. He threw 36 and 9 last year. Like, he's kind of the Lamar thing, though, where CJ has the benefit of the doubt of not having playoff failures.
Yeah.
Like he's 1-1 in the
He's
playoffs.
new.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He has that luxury. Same with Jordan Love. Jordan Love is still new to the playoffs. Dak and Lamar, all they've done is fail. So they kind of get pushed back in line a little bit. Same thing with Herbert even. Herbert, has that one playoff game which they have a massive halftime lead and a bunch of weird years around it where like the stats look great but there's no W's. So I think CJ can probably get to 3 if they don't win a Super Bowl next year. But there's arguments for other guys. I forgot about Purdy, to be honest, until you said him.
I realized that we had gone 5 minutes into this conversation without saying an NFC quarterback's name.
It's the truth.
It is
Jared
true.
Goff statistically last year, second in the league in passing yards.
You're going into
30 and
Purdy zone,
12.
buddy.
What,
Listen,
Jalen?
I'm just mentioning alternatives. Jalen Hurts was such a disappointment last year.
I know. But he was so good the year before that, like...
He's probably the biggest mover up or down in the league that I can think of, where I can 50% of it's a coin flip to me of he's either right back in the top group where he might be right there with CJ Stroud by the end of the year. Even if CJ does have a year where he's top 3, Hurts could be at a place where he's 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
He could also be in a spot where we go, ugh.
Worst contract in the NFL.
Yeah, we're kind of done with this guy.
Yeah. And, I mean, look, he's got incredible weapons and had those struggles. And Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. One more NFC quarterback because screw it. Let's make sure that we talk about all of them. He also gets forgotten a lot because he's always hurt, but he's tough as hell.
Yeah.
Matt Stafford?
Yeah. Matt is...
With Sean McVay? I mean, he had a really good game against the Lions in the playoffs. He had 367 yards and averaged 10 yards an attempt.
He's like an absolute... I think he's absolutely top 10. I just have a hard time putting him in the top 5.
He's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. No doubt in my mind. I just don't think he's not at that top anymore.
Purdy or Stafford?
Stafford.
Okay.
To win a Super Bowl?
Stafford's top 10.
Yeah, to win a Super Bowl,
Stafford's tough
Stafford.
as hell, too.
Yeah.
I love that Stafford is as tough as he is.
Stafford or Herbert?
Stafford.
Okay.
Stafford.
Herbert, it's just everyone wants him to be a thing, and I'm sorry, not yet. I see flashes. Every quarterback is capable of flashes.
Stafford or CJ?
Now, that is actually a tough question because right now, we're close to it. We're biased. I think CJ's got the more upside, but Stafford has been in bigger games recently and delivered in bigger games recently.
he's a
Stroud has
he's a
really
Super
just
Bowl
not had
champion.
that many opportunities.
That might be your like 5'6" or 6'7". You know, like they seem like they're pretty close to each other. I agree.
Yeah, like I think if CJ Stroud's the quarterback for the Rams this year with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, they're definitely the best team in the NFC. So I would take Stroud over Stafford actually.
Okay.
Right now they're close. Like they're in that top tier category in the NFC, but if CJ Stroud is the quarterback of the Rams, I think they're better than the 49ers.
Is CJ Stroud the best quarterback to be in a Shanahan offense? Not Mike Shanahan with John Elway.
Yes.
But is he if you look around all the other Shanahan quarterbacks, they feel like they're guys that are running the system, where CJ Stroud, it seems like he elevates the system.
Tua, Brock Purdy would be probably the biggest examples of those two.
Your Garoppolos of the world in the past.
Cousins last year was with
Yeah.
McConnell.
Is McVay part of that?
No, his offense is a little bit different.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're like close, but they're kind of offshoots.
Like people don't really consider it the same tree or branch.
I mean, they both were on the Washington staff.
They were.
They need to uproot this tree. There's too many branches. You know, it's not safe in a WHL.
I mean, they're also not winning championships, most of them. So besides,
The Kyle
Actually,
Shanahan
wait.
thing.
Well,
None of them have won
the Andy Reid
championships.
tree, the Andy Reid tree is the only one who's winning championships.
yeah,
right
it's not like the Belichick tree had any success. They were brutal.